All right, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, members of parliament. My name is Keith Andere, and I'm joined on this panel with a very distinguished and able representation of all of you who are in front of us here. With us, we have members of parliament, the Honorable Speaker of the Guinea National Assembly, as well as youth representatives. And so we hope that this will be a very intimate conversation that we are going to have. They will tackle quite a number of issues and questions, but we will also have an opportunity to seek, audience with them and ask questions. So without further ado, I will just jump straight into the flesh of this session. And when I am done, I'll just allow the colleagues 33 seconds to just say their name and one interesting thing about them so that the colleagues can remember who you are and what is interesting about you. So we always talk about future generations, and the future is now. So as the future generations are the most affected by our global future, young people have a leading role in the digital transformation journey in all aspects, through our dedicated youth track. A global network of young people active in the digital sphere has organized workshops across all regions around the theme empowering youth leaders for trusted AI, which will culminate into the IGF 2024 Youth Summit that has already happened for some of you who already followed that. And this session just brings together youth leaders and parliamentarians to foster a dialogue on priorities and perspective for a more inclusive digital future. So having said that, I want to give my able panelists just 30 seconds, 33 seconds to say your name and something interesting about yourself. Thank you. Maybe I'll start on my far right.
Thank you. My name is MP Sahar Albazar. I'm from Egypt. Something to remember me with. I am one of the young women parliamentarians in Egypt, but I will forever be young at heart.
Hi everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Ihita, Gangavarapu, the coordinator of India Youth IGF. So it's a pleasure to be here. And one interesting thing about me, the fact that I belong to one of the most populous nations, and with more than 50% of the population as young people, and it's a privilege to be working with young people in the last 7 years.
Hi everyone, my name is Duaa Albalawi. A fun fact about me is my name is Duaa, which means prayer in Arabic, because I was actually born premature at 6 months old, and my parents thought I was going to pass away. A little bit about me and why I'm here today. So I actually headed the Y20 delegation at the Y20 summit in Brazil earlier this year. So hopefully today I'll be sharing our collective perspective as G20 countries. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Duaa. And the Honorable Speaker, you have the floor. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Je suis Dansa Kourouma. Je suis le président du Parlement de la République de Guinée, dont la capitale est Conakry. Je suis médecin de formation et avant d'être au Parlement, j'étais le président du Conseil national de la société civile de la Guinée, donc de l'hôpital à la société civile et aujourd'hui à la tête du Parlement. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. So we'll go straight to the meat and the flesh of the discussion today. And it's only obvious that we start off with our members of parliament. And so I'll put straight the questions to you. From your perspective as members of parliament, how can young people most effectively contribute to the policy making and legislative procedures? Maybe you can provide some concrete examples from your respective countries and parliaments, if you may.
Sure. Thank you so much for the important question. I would start with that young people are not only the future, but they are our active contributors and in our present time for policies and legislations. I will give few examples in Egypt how we can engage young people in our processes. In 2017, for example, our president Abdel Fattah Sisi launched the World Youth Forum, which is a platform where we bring young people from all around the world to come and spend almost a week in Egypt, where they come together, have voice, and this platform yield at the end of the day a collective voice of Egyptian young people who created an entity or a body called the Coordination Committee for Parties, Young Leaders, and Youth Leaders and politicians. This committee now have in our parliament 31 MP and 12 in our Senate. So we were able to move these young people from only a platform, they were just voicing their wishes, to be part of the parliament. That's one of the initiatives. Another thing is, which is very close to my heart, it's the simulation of the parliament, where we go to schools and the students have simulation for the parliament. And after they do the simulation, we do a competition, and the winning school will have the group of these students come to the parliament itself to live the real parliamentary experience. This is very close to my heart because we are not only trying to empower youth, we also include the children in the schools, which is very important for the coming generations. Um, Sorry, I thought someone was speaking. Another thing is mentorship. This is also very important because usually when you ask a kid in the school or a young person in a university, what do you want to do when you grow up, how or where do you see yourself in the future? Being a politician is not something that is close to the mind. So mentoring them and having MPs who are close to their age a little bit, it's very important to have role models that really can speak to you, can use your language, understand your issues, that you feel comfortable speaking with. So mentorship is very, very important. And I personally always volunteer in my time to mentor African youth. And also there are networks for global youth where I spend more time trying to mentor young people. Another important aspect for me is or tool that we as parliaments and as governments and as countries can use is to reduce and decrease the running for elections age. So, for example, in Egypt in 2014, when we have the constitution change, we changed the minimum age for running from 30 to 25. And in my global advocacy work, we're trying to push to have the age of having driving license, which is the same age where you can vote, can be the same age where you can run. Because if you are wise enough to choose who to vote for, you're definitely wise enough to run if you want. And you can find other countries like in the US, on a state level parliament, like in Vermont, their parliament, all the representatives are starting 18. So this is also an example of how you include and engage young people in the process of decision making and policy making. Uh, I will end here so I can give the rest time to contribute.
Super. That sounds very interesting, and I like how you've closed it by saying, the importance of making sure, and I think it's practical with most of our countries, that we can't run the age where we start voting. So that is something to ponder about. But we have another colleague, Honorable Tobias, who's a member of parliament from Germany, who's connected online. But before we come to him, the Honorable Speaker would like to make a statement. So I would like to invite him to share his statement.
Merci, honorable modérateur. Et, pour ma part, je commence par remercier les autorités saoudiennes et tous les organisateurs de ce forum qui est d'une pertinence incontestable. Et si vous visitez Riyad, vous avez l'obligation de vous convaincre d'une réalité, que la modernité et la conservation des valeurs authentiques sont conciliables. Il y a possibilité de faire un dialogue entre la course vers la modernité tout en gardant les valeurs traditionnelles, les valeurs authentiques. C'est le constat le plus important à Riyad. Alors, ceci m'amène à développer ma thèse sur un certain nombre de considérations qui sont à la fois les responsabilités des parlements, mais aussi les responsabilités des États. Vous êtes d'accord avec moi que la modernité, la course vers l'innovation et la modernité ne peut pas être décidée par les gouvernements seuls. Il faut que les parlements et les parlementaires soient convaincus que la modernité ne doit pas être aux antipodes des valeurs traditionnelles, des valeurs humaines. Parce que ma conviction est de la sorte. Tout progrès économique, scientifique et technique qui laisse la valeur humaine derrière est contre-productif. C'est pourquoi quand on parle de l'intelligence artificielle, on parle de la robotique, on parle de tout ce qui est considération du point de vue technologique aujourd'hui, nous devons être vigilants à ce que les progrès scientifiques et technologiques ne relèguent pas l'être humain, ne relèguent pas les valeurs humaines au second rang. C'est pourquoi les parlementaires sont amenés à légiférer en tenant compte des aspirations de leur peuple. C'est pourquoi le progrès technologique est impossible sans une adhésion des parlements qui sont les représentations des différentes diversités qui composent les pays. La deuxième considération qui me semble être importante, c'est l'intelligence artificielle est un défi. C'est une opportunité aussi. Mais nous sommes responsables en tant que parlementaires de doter les pays des meilleures lois, des meilleures politiques et programmes qui permettent d'humaniser l'utilisation de l'intelligence artificielle. Mais la question de savoir si nous devrons aller vers l'intelligence artificielle ne se pose plus. C'est une réalité, c'est une perspective incontournable. Mais comment y aller? Il faut être garanti par des lois qui préviennent les dérives, les lois qui préviennent la déshumanisation, les lois qui préviennent la recolonisation des pays qui ne sont pas avancés en matière de technologie. Parce que si la colonisation par le fait des hommes a été difficile à supporter, la colonisation technologique est encore plus grave parce qu'on a affaire à des machines, on a affaire à des systèmes qui ne sont pas humains. Donc, il est extrêmement important que les lois nationales soient mises en adéquation avec des lois internationales. C'est pourquoi les lois nationales seules ne suffisent plus pour encadrer, pour dompter l'intelligence artificielle. Il faut des conventions et des lois internationales repensées entre les pays grâce à la coopération entre les États et l'implication des Nations Unies et les autres organisations et les autres instances internationales. C'est ça qui peut garantir l'utilisation aujourd'hui de l'intelligence artificielle pour le bien-être de la population, pour le progrès social et économique. Et j'ajoute un troisième élément du point de vue considération, c'est l'éducation et la solidarité numérique. Je l'ai dit tout à l'heure dans mon introduction, si je suis présent à cette rencontre pour représenter mon Parlement, c'est faire comprendre aux pays qui ont des avancées sur le plan technologique qu'ils ne se sentiront pas en sécurité, savent que d'autres pays sont au bas de l'échelle. Il faut de la solidarité parce que la communication aujourd'hui, la réduction des fossés entre les nations, entre les peuples, est un défi du monde actuel. C'est pourquoi il ne faut pas accepter que le fossé s'agrandisse entre les pays qui sont avancés et les pays qui sont pauvres. Parce que le monde, s'il est un village planétaire, ça veut dire que nous devons communier entre nous, nous devons nous entraider. C'est pourquoi la solidarité et l'éducation numérique, surtout au bénéfice de la jeunesse, est une alternative extrêmement importante pour les pays. J'ajoute un dernier élément. Et notre jeune député tout à l'heure a fait cas à la réduction de l'âge pour permettre de participer aux élections dans les pays. C'est aussi de la responsabilité des parlements. Je donne une considération. Chez moi, dans mon pays, 75% de la population a moins de 40 ans. 75% de la population. Mais il y a moins de 20% de jeunes de moins de 40 ans au Parlement. C'est un paradoxe. C'est pourquoi les parlementaires doivent être extrêmement vigilants et que les lois doivent refléter les besoins de la population, les besoins de la société. Ça ne doit pas être dicté par des intérêts de souveraineté obligatoirement. C'est la possibilité donnée à toutes les couches de la population de participer à la gouvernance publique. Pour moi, c'est extrêmement important. Dans mon pays, l'âge pour être député était de 25 ans. Nous l'avons réduit dans la nouvelle constitution à 21 ans pour permettre à 75% de la population de participer. Et l'âge pour l'élection présidentielle, nous l'avons réduit à 35 ans pour permettre également aux jeunes, selon la charte africaine de la jeunesse, dont l'âge limite est de 35 ans, de participer aussi aux élections présidentielles. Pour conclure mes propos, l'Internet, l'intelligence artificielle, c'est un moyen d'améliorer aujourd'hui la gouvernance démocratique, notamment faciliter la participation de toutes les couches de la population partout où elles se trouvent aux élections. L'intelligence artificielle, le numérique permet de réduire les contraintes liées à la participation des uns et des autres. Mais attention, c'est aussi un moyen, une porte ouverte à la fraude électorale si les lois et les conventions ne sont pas respectées et que les pays développés ne coopèrent pas avec les pays sous-développés pour réguler l'utilisation et l'usage de l'Internet pour le bien de la population. Je suis pour l'Internet, je suis pour l'intelligence artificielle, mais je suis pour la responsabilité des parlementaires, la responsabilité des États et des institutions internationales pour que l'Internet ne constitue pas un monstre incontrôlable qui déshumanise le monde au lieu de faciliter la prospérité et accélérer la croissance et le développement mondial. Je vous remercie.
I was waiting for a bit more heavier clap because he spoke. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I mean, you're speaking to what many young people in the room, I believe, will resonate with. And for us who come from Africa, some of us will remember the Not Too Young to Run campaign, which was influencing and urging young people to take up this space. So this is very, very valid conversation. So we will take up Honorable Tobias, who is a member of Parliament from Germany. Unfortunately, our display screens are doing the tech thing, so we are not able to see him, but I believe we can hear him. Tobias, if you can hear me, just say hello.
Hi, good to hear you. At least I can see you as well. So,
well, I can promise the room that you're handsome. So please go straight to answering the questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And first of all, sorry I cannot be there in person. Maybe that's a fun fact I have for you. I had to vote on our snap elections yesterday, and since we have plenary tomorrow again, I was not able to fly over for just half a day, but I'm very sorry for that. I think it's very interesting to talk about young people in politics in the field of digitalization, because I mean, of course, there is we already heard about young people playing plenary sessions, and I think this is incredibly important. The young people are our future. They are the future of our democracies, of our parliamentarian systems as well. But besides that, it's also important to have different way of communication with them. And I don't mean that they should be not taken serious. I don't mean that. Just talk to them as you would talk to any citizen, of course. But they have different ways of communication. And yeah, many older people by now also use WhatsApp and Facebook and Instagram and so on. But I think there's one very important difference and I'm still saying I turned 30 now, so I'm not really young anymore, but I still would take myself into the younger generation. We grew up with mobile phones, with smartphones, and so on. When I was, I think, 12, the iPhone was introduced. So many things that seem to be a change for older colleagues, because they witnessed how media and media usage has changed, is for us rather something that we are completely used to. That is the environment we grew up with, that we feel comfortable getting information and also having political debates. And I think this is important to take into account. We see many older colleagues, many very smart politicians that drive their platforms throughout digital communication skills. But I think very often, if we look very, very closely, there are younger people involved that are actually driving that campaign, that are pushing for those parts in the campaign. But there is also a different or second part in having that perspective on digital communication tools, because I would argue digital communication tools and the platforms that I have mentioned before, and I mean, those are huge companies that have a certain interest making money, but they also provide a critical infrastructure for our political debates. And I think this is something, as much as I value older colleagues and sometimes even envy how much they have experienced and how much they also can recall from their memory. I think what I just described in a matter on how do we communicate to young people also goes for how do we politically approach digital topics. How much value, how much central points do we give to digital communication tools? And what I often experience is that older colleagues, if they don't understand something, in Europe we have that when it came to Telegram, we had the big demonstrations around the Corona. Basically jumped to was like being a bit afraid and deciding to talk about, shall we forbid Telegram? How can we shut down that kind of information system? And I think that's something we should not do. The contrary. And many young people were like, excuse my language, but we're like, what the fuck are you talking about? First of all, how do you want to do that on technical level? And second of all, this is our information space. We don't shut down your TV stations or your newspapers as well. And I think having that part within the debate is incredibly powerful, and it again involves young people also in politics, because it's topics that are very close to their heart and reflect their reality.
Thanks, Tobias. I think what you're talking about, especially the political communication and the role of digital tools to support political communication, is a very big conversation. Now that you're talking about young people being behind the keyboards, supporting key political players around this, and the issue of shutdowns, be it platform shutdown, be it throttling of the internet, are very big and pertinent conversations that I've had from various young people and various forums that we are here. And I think it's important that this has come out from a young parliamentarian from a global north perspective. So we'll dive straight to our youth leaders, and not to gag you, just maintain 3 minutes of time so that we are able to flow. I can see already hands coming up and it's not yet time. So young people are a critical voice in digital governance. Do you agree? At least we can agree. As dedicated youth representatives, what would you like members of parliaments to consider in the legislative procedure? And maybe, what are some of the obstacles in further including youth perspectives in digital governance? Over to you.
Perfect. 3 minutes. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Ihita. So I'd like to start off with talking about the vision of the internet itself, right? Me personally, as a young person, would want the internet to be a truly digital public infrastructure that is secure, safe, reliable, and accessible for all. Now, this is not something that's possible just by young people or just by lawmakers. It's a cooperation and collaboration between the both. So that brings us to your question around legislative procedures. And the most important aspect of the legislative procedure is for it to truly empower all of us. And that is possible if we have an inclusive policymaking and legislative procedure. And when I say that, I'm talking about real youth participation. So, youth itself is not a monolith. Within the young people category, we have different stakeholders from different economies, different cultures, different languages, different understanding of technologies in the societies. So, inclusion, especially from the consultations part of it, especially when we have the bills coming out in India, whenever there is a bill, since being the coordinator of Youth IGF, we ensure that whenever there's a public consultation, young people are made aware, and we, as a community of young people, make sure our comments and inputs are provided to the consultation on the bills. Similarly, the tokenism aspect, youth are it should not be there should not be any tokenism. There has to be real participation, and such that the outcomes are incorporated in the actual outcomes. And when we talk about consultation, there has to be mechanisms to ensure that the young people are drawn towards these consultations. The inputs are provided, they're made to understand why it is important to voice themselves. The second thing with respect to legislation that I'll talk about is contextualized legislation design. This is important because although legislation is a national, could be at the national level, but the adaptation of it is from a local level. So it's important to understand the local disparities that could be with respect to digital access and digital literacy. And this is where I think a lot of cooperation with grassroots youth initiatives would help. Moving forward, the last point, or maybe rather second last if we have time, is that I want to talk about the accountability aspect in the legislation. So when working with young people in the last 7 years, cyber fraud, radicalization on the internet, misinformation, cyber safety are among some of the concerns that extensively they talk about. So when we are designing these legislations, you have to ensure that the accountability is present in protecting the digital rights of youth. And the last point, not to rush, is to understand the impact of the legislation, the impact assessment, the impact studies, and how these laws affect young people, their rights, the societies, their access, as well as their opportunities, has to be put together to ensure a holistic framework. Thank you.
So keyword, youth participation by design, youth engagement by design. Super. Duaa, do you wanna?
Sure thing. Thank you so much, Keith. So I really want to start off by saying that from my experience at the Y20 this year, there is no one and done approach to policymaking, especially when it comes to digital governance, given that technology has been rapidly evolving at an unprecedented rate that none of us has experienced in the past. Now, when it comes to youth, they're a key stakeholder in this rapid development of technology. And not only should they be involved, but they should be consulted when it comes to steering our policymaking direction. Now, for example, forums like the G20 Youth Summit occur on an annual basis and provide insights on the youth's stance globally on very different topics, including digital governance. And if you allow me, I would really like to take this opportunity to highlight two of the youth policies that emerged in this sphere during our negotiations in Brazil this past August. So when it comes to artificial intelligence, and as His Excellency Dansa has mentioned, youth are calling on our leaders to build a global ethical taxonomy for the development of AI and its political, security, and informational implications by creating one, AI auditing frameworks for fair, accountable, and most importantly, unbiased AI systems. Two, putting measures in place to ensure a fair transition for workers to ensure that no one is going to be left behind. And lastly, putting in place national commissions that analyze the impact of AI and propose national regulatory frameworks. Now, on the other hand, another topic of discussion when it comes to data and privacy, the youth are really calling on leaders to empower citizens when it comes to their relationship to these platforms and the use of their personal data. Now, this includes developing ethical standards of data management, but most importantly, sovereignty to enable citizens to actively protect their privacy and examine the feasibility of establishing private ownership over each individual's personal data. Now, when it comes to your question on obstacles of including youth perspectives in digital governance, my answer might be a bit unconventional, but I truly believe one of the biggest obstacles from both sides, the senior stakeholders and the youth, is the gap in communication. From my experience, I've observed a very big disconnect in how the youth and members of parliament and members of government communicate and share these ideas. Where youth, and justifiably so, are typically very forthcoming and relentless in their communication, which can be very hard to receive and digest for senior stakeholders. But this is where the responsibility of senior government stakeholders truly lies in mentoring and guiding these passionate youth to polish and fine-tune their demands. Now, I believe our MP Sahar has mentioned a few incredible examples of how youth can participate to address some of these key challenges in the digital governance space, so I might not expand too much on that. But another issue that I really wanted to bring to the table is the point on fair compensation for youth participation. Youth participation is not a privilege. It is a God-given right. And youth have incredibly insightful and creative solutions that sometimes are not recognized or compensated for. So I would really like to highlight an approach that emerged from our Y20 deliberations, where youth are calling on leaders to increase and incentivize youth participation in local, regional, and national governments through establishing diverse and, most importantly, paid engagement initiatives such as youth parliaments and advisory councils, while leveraging and also facilitating maybe public and private partnerships to try and aid this funding and ensure that youth contributions are conserved in their policymaking efforts. Now, of course, I would just like to close on a very positive note and highlight that the session that we're in today truly showcases a remarkable effort from members of parliament to empower the voices youth on the global stage. So I just really want to take the opportunity to thank everybody for giving us the stage today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Duaa. Already we have had very concrete, recommendation and actions and things that are able to move us forward from where we are sitting, because somebody was already talking on tokenism, So these are very concrete, actions that you're already talking to us. So this next session is, for me, what is most exciting, because we've been doing the talking and they've been doing the listening. And so it's our turn maybe to listen to them, maybe perhaps answer. So we have a few minutes, and I want to see how do I balance these few minutes and donate it to the audience in the room. By way of hand, I will invite a round of questions. Should we have a few, which I can see some hands in the room, I want to ask that we do the following. We just say our name and we go straight to the point. If your question can be in 60 characters, we will be more happy, because that means that more people are going to take the floor. Oh yes, a tweet kind of question. Of course, not the Elon Musk kind of tweet, yeah? So I see a hand here. I see there was a second hand here, and there's a third hand. Sorry? I see 3 hands. Okay, oh yeah, I see this one, and then there's another one. Okay, so we'll take those 4 rounds. Please say your name and be straight to the point. If you have a question to any of the panelists,
Yes,
point it.
allow me, I'll speak in Arabic if you can just understand. My name is Munir, I'm from Bahrain. My question is very straightforward. I think the lady here, or the young lady from Egypt, she تكلمت عن الشباب اليوم هم ليس المستقبل، هم المشاركين، هم البناء. اتفق اياها، بس هل اليوم التكنولوجيا والتطور الحاصل في البلد الفجوه قلت بين الشباب وبين الطفوله؟ متى نقدر نخلي يعني نعرف متى الطفوله؟ انت قلتين في المدارس ممكن احنا نعلم يعني الاطفال عن ابات عن التشريع وعن البرلمان، هاي يمكن اختراق الطفوله. بس هاي مشكلتي، بس هاي يعني اعرف لمتى بيكون الاطفال، يعني شلون الفجوه قلت بين الطفل وبين الشباب؟ وشكرا.
Let's take the first round and then we can all answer. So that is for you.
Hello.
There was second question here. Yes.
Oh, they're going up. Okay.
Yeah.
My name is Jose Keja from Ghana, African Youth IGF. First of all, I'd like to commend our honorable MPs, especially our West African MPs, for doing great work in that open door policy. But I'd like to ask questions for all the MPs in the room. How can we measure that kind of open consultation with the youth? What kind of strategies are in place that can be measured, that can be quantifiable? Thank you very much.
That is a powerful tweet. We had a third question from the gentleman.
Okay, thank you, Keith. So my name is Noah Abdelbaki. My question is to MP Sahar, I'm from Egypt as well. So I've been in this ecosystem, the internet governance system, for a while, but I feel like I grew up watching the parliament plenary sessions on TV, but I feel like as a citizen, I lost connection with the parliament. So I was wondering, we have a lot of experts in Egypt in different fields, especially when it comes to tech, but how to build this connection between those experts and the parliament and rebuild this trust and bond again.
I'm Srinath Govindarajan. I'm from India. I'll keep my question really short. So my question across the panel is there a cultural resistance for young politicians to be elected, in the sense that are voters less likely to vote for young politicians? And how do we combat that?
Thank you. So we'll take this first round of questions. Just like the questions, please make your answer tweetable.
Our parliamentarian. Okay, so I'm lucky to have two questions here. The first one is about the children, and if exposing them on how the parliament works is a violation for childhood. We're not going to kindergarten. We're going to the primary age and people in high school. So they are actually in few years, in 2 years, will be voting for the parliament, so they need to understand and be more aware. It's like civic education, so that when it's time to vote, they can understand the process and they vote for the right person. For I'm sorry, I didn't get your name. Ezekiel Noha. So thank you for the question. I'm currently actually working on AI governance bill, and we have a lot of Egyptian experts, as you mentioned. And as a parliamentarian, I have to have roundtables to discuss. So I always include everyone. It's inclusive. I have private sector, I have experts, I have international organizations, I have civil society. Everyone should be included. So that's how we bridge the knowledge and the expertise with the policymaker. So when you produce and introduce a bill, it's evidence based. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, those are the two questions that were directly to you. I think there was a general question from a comrade from Ghana that was speaking to all members of parliament. Honorable Speaker, I don't know whether you want to answer his question. How can we measure open consultation with young people? If there are any strategies.
L'indicateur le plus important, c'est l'accès des jeunes. Il faut créer des stratégies pour permettre aux jeunes d'accéder à l'information, surtout sur les travaux parlementaires. C'est pourquoi chez nous, nous transmettons en direct le débat parlementaire sur les réseaux sociaux. Classiquement, le débat, c'était sur la radio et la télé, mais aujourd'hui, dans notre Parlement en Guinée, le débat parlementaire en plénière et en commission, vous pouvez les avoir sur les réseaux sociaux, tous les réseaux sociaux que vous imaginez, vous pouvez vous connecter, poser des questions. Et l'autre élément qui me semble être important, c'est qu'il faut créer des opportunités pour que les jeunes soient représentés au Parlement. La meilleure façon de faire, au lieu que les jeunes soient bénéficiaires, ils doivent être des acteurs. C'est pourquoi baisser l'âge de la participation des jeunes au Parlement me semble être une opportunité extrêmement importante. Mais il y a des obstacles. C'est l'accès au financement. La politique, mon frère du Ghana, dans les pays africains, c'est réservé aux riches. Alors, dire que vous baissez l'âge de la participation des jeunes et que les jeunes n'ont pas les moyens de présenter des cautions et de battre campagne, le fossé reste encore. Donc, en plus de la facilitation d'accès des jeunes qui est encouragée par la loi, il faut mettre en place des mécanismes de financement pour encourager la participation des jeunes au processus décisionnel. La dernière contribution, c'est sur les enfants. Dans nos pays, il y a ce qu'on appelle le Parlement des enfants. Le Parlement des enfants, nous consultons le Parlement des enfants en Guinée sur toutes les lois qui touchent la jeunesse, qui touchent les enfants, parce que ce sont des élèves de 12 à 18 ans qui sont très brillants, qui sont très critiques. Donc, quand le Parlement senior fait des débats sur l'éducation, sur la santé, nous donnons la parole au Parlement des enfants, qui est représenté dans tout le pays, pour qu'ils donnent leur point de vue. En effet, l'implication des jeunes en tant qu'électeurs, c'est à partir de 18 ans. Mais il faut aussi permettre à un jeune de 18 ans qui participe au vote en choisissant d'être aussi candidat, parce que le vote, c'est une responsabilité. On ne peut pas créer de disparité entre la participation, le droit de vote et le droit d'être candidat. Donc, il faut que les législations nous amènent aujourd'hui à créer une harmonie entre l'âge de vote et l'âge de candidature aux élections, en plus de l'assistance qu'on peut faire aux jeunes pour l'accès aux fonds. Pour moi, c'est extrêmement important parce que je termine. La technologie avantage les jeunes par rapport au processus politique. Vous êtes d'accord avec moi, dans beaucoup de pays, l'Internet a changé les régimes. Il y a des blogueurs qui ont changé le cours de la compréhension de l'histoire de leur pays sur le plan politique, grâce à des tweets, grâce à des vidéos sur YouTube. Ils ont amené à conscientiser les jeunes, qui constituent presque 70% des populations africaines, à prendre conscience. Donc, il est important que cette prise de conscience soit bien paramétrée pour ne pas que ça soit utilisé contre aussi la stabilité de nos nations. Donc, il n'y a pas de solution miracle. Il faut essayer en créant toutes les conditions pour que les jeunes puissent accéder et être aussi en sécurité par rapport à l'information.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. I see, Tobias, I can now report authoritatively that the room can see you and they can confirm what I told them earlier. So if you have any additional response, I give you a minute.
First of all, I completely agree what the honorable colleague just said. In Germany, in certain areas, we have a passive right to vote that's 16. That goes for the European election and for local elections, and in some parts also for state elections. And in some local elections, even an active right. So you are able to run when you're already 16 for local council. And that combined with youth councils, where young people vote their own councils and have their own budgets in that council then. I think that gives two very important parts, access. And I think access is the most important thing, because knowing in theory whom to write and where to go is great. And knowing what hearing to watch and so on. But there's a lot of, let's be honest, a lot of informal ways to reach your parliamentarians, to reach your decision makers, to reach their teams and so on. And to get to know that, the best thing is to get involved. And I think to encourage young people in that, it's incredibly important. And we have, in the German Bundestag, we have a children commission, so a standing committee that's only focusing and working on topics that concern children. And what a colleague of mine that was chairperson of that committee for half a year. It's always rotating every half a year. And in her 6 months, she decided to only invite children. So children all over from the country were invited to the German Bundestag to speak there. And I think that was an adaptation of the multi-stakeholder, or is a little adaptation of the multi-stakeholder process. That is important, because long story short, wherever you have an open forum, where you have an open process where people are able to participate when they want. And then on the second step, you reach out to those whom it might concern, who might be willing to actually participate, and try to enable them, maybe through some program that gives them funding to travel to wherever you meet and so on, or to have digital formats as well. Thank you for that possibility today, for example. I think to have that kind of connection would be very, very great to see that in more places and see it in more political fields. And I think the IGF is a great opportunity to experience the multi-stakeholder process, but also to learn from the multi-stakeholder process. Don't have closed doors, have as many open doors as possible, and have them so wide open that people can actually step in and be willing and feel allowed to speak out. And if young people feel encouraged to do that and get encouraged, and the possibility when it comes to funding as well, because young people, we heard that already, don't have that amount of money necessarily. Either their parents have or often they don't. So if we fund them, I think that gives an incredibly opportunity to actually get involved and be part of any kind of political process.
Thank you, Honorable Tobias. Duaa, it will be unjust to leave you out without a response. I think there was a gentleman's question that was not responded to. So very quickly, we could respond to that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Keith. I think on your question of are voters less likely to vote for young politicians, maybe the response to that is a bit convoluted. But in my opinion, I think a key driver to rallying support as a young politician really lies in the age demographic that you're targeting. If you're in a country where the population is mostly represented by youth, then it's very apparent that youth would like someone from that same demographic to represent them and call for their needs and really address the challenges that they want to bring to the table. However, maybe if you look at countries such as Japan, where most of the demographic is mostly older generations, they might have different considerations and different challenges that need to be kept to mind. But I really think that's where the youth's ability to learn and gain credibility and expertise really comes into play, because that evens out the playing field. So I hope that answers your question. Maybe I want to move to Ihita and see if she has anything more to say.
Yeah, that's actually a very good question, and thank you so much for touching on the demographics aspect. But I also feel like, in addition to that, there's a lot of narrative around this, that we have to change. And it's just not us, but rather it's so intergenerational that the older generations we expect a very strong support in helping us change the direction of this narrative to ensure that people see young people as, which we are, as very skilled, informed, and relevant to this generation and the future as well. So a lot of it also relies on narrative. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I see we have less than 4 minutes left. But because we're all here for tech, I have asked AI how many parliamentarians are in the room, and it says it's more than those already who are seated here. So I've seen a few parliamentarians from AI and senators, from national governments and Pan-African and regional parliaments. So I will take the powers, that I have to allow those who are willing 1 minute, not to make a huge submission like they do in the House, but 1 minute of intervention. Maybe I'll give, because I have 3 minutes, I can give 4 for 50 seconds each, and then we'll come to closing. So are there any takers? So there's one here, there's a senator here. See, AI is right. No bias, huh? There's another senator here. So those are 3, and we'll keep it, and 4. Okay, so 50 seconds each. If we have a roving mic, please do share to the 4 honorable members for 50 seconds. Thank you.
Start counting now. What I'd like to say to the young people, that Parliament is a space that has been given a lot of powers to shape everything that happens, literally everything. It decides what education will happen, how health will look like. So young people must become political in order for their issues to be addressed. So if you just abandon it to Parliament, because it's an old people's boring space, that is the reason why you then end up with bad laws. So every young person must be political in order to shape the quality of business that comes out of Parliament.
I think also I want to encourage the young people. The first time I was elected, I was 26 years old as a senator. I'm serving possibly my second into third term in the Senate of the Republic of Kenya. Is to build that confidence, be proactive, be conscious of the nation. Just start it from the grassroots where you are, from the village, from the town, from the city, and be part to it. And then finally, we run what we call open governance program. I know you have heard about the OGP. That is where we give what we call legislative integrity, legislative openness, and integrity and transparency. I thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Honorable Alhaji Mbo from the Gambia and the Pan-African Parliament. What I want to say is like exactly what is going on in Guinea, where we have a mirror parliament called the National Youth Parliament. We have the same thing in the Gambia. It is very good to have simply because it mirrors the national parliament exactly. Where I sit in parliament in Gambia, that's the same seat where the young parliamentarian from my constituency also sits. They discuss, they have resolutions, and they have recommendations that they forward to the national parliament. So you see that synergy between the real parliament and the youth parliament, it creates that energy. It actually allows them to see themselves as the future lawmakers of the country. So if you don't have it, I think it's good to encourage your parliaments to have such so that they can see exactly what's actually happening. You have to be on the table. Don't allow yourself to be on the menu. Be on the table, know exactly what we are doing so that when you get there, at any particular time, be it young or old, you are able to do the right things. Thank you.
You can see that all the parliamentarians instinctively are standing up to speak. That's what we do in the parliament. Well, I'm from Nigeria, and I also like to say Nigeria has a youth parliament. Indeed, as I'm a senator, I also have a senator youth that also sit. They also have their own speaker, just like we have the president of the Senate. And the second part of it as well, there's also a gallery that also allows youth to also participate and watch proceedings. And I'm proud to say I started as a student parliamentarian, and I rose through the rank, and today I'm a national parliamentarian. The only thing I'd like to emphasize, as we're emphasizing the responsibility for you to take more engagement, they must also have responsibility to also maintain the integrity of the country. Countries are not run on social media. Countries also have, the youth, as they are doing the engagement, as they are mobilizing on the social media, they must also know that certain things border on national security. So as you want to have more space on the table, that more space on the table also comes with more responsibility. And the conversation will not be complete if you are creating more space on the table without letting them know that being on the table creates responsibility that they also need to be aware of.
Thank you, honorable members. It seems that you have pressed something because I see two very pressing hands. Maybe they want to challenge that governments are not, run from social media. There was a hand behind there. Is it still up? Yes. So please make it very short. And then I'll take the gentleman here.
Hello? Okay, sorry. Okay, good afternoon. My name is Matilda Moses Mashauri. Okay, good afternoon. My name is Matilda Moses Mashauri. So my question is, I've heard all the explanations. So I want to know what strategies we the youth should use that will contribute to and lead to the digital transformation journey. What are the key steps and things like that, though? Thank you very much.
Thank you. There's a gentleman here. I hope that he will be as brief as the lady behind there.
Merci beaucoup. Je voudrais faire aussi comme mes collègues parlementaires. Je suis Alpha Abdoulaye Diallo. Je suis président de la Commission des affaires économiques et développement durable du Parlement guinéen. Je voudrais féliciter les panélistes et aussi remercier le président du Parlement guinéen pour l'opportunité qu'il nous a offert d'être à ce forum. Et une expérience que je voudrais ajouter par rapport aux jeunes, c'est qu'il ne faut pas se limiter seulement au Parlement des jeunes et aux sénateurs jeunes. En République de Guinée, nous avons une expérience, ce qu'on appelle les conseils locaux des jeunes au niveau des communes. Dans les communes rurales et dans les communes urbaines, nous avons installé ce qu'on appelle les conseils locaux des jeunes. Et à partir de déjà au niveau de leur commune, ils commencent à apprendre la vie de la cité, c'est-à-dire à participer à la prise de décision dans leur commune et dans leur quartier. Et ensuite, ils vont progresser vers le conseil, disons le Parlement des jeunes et les sénateurs des jeunes. Donc, je pense que la prise de décision d'abord doit commencer au niveau des communes. Ça permet aux jeunes de se socialiser au niveau de leur quartier, au niveau de leur commune, mais aussi de réduire beaucoup la dépendance vis-à-vis des technologies. Je vous remercie.
Thank you so much. Okay, so can you make it 10 seconds? Okay, 20. 25.
Thank you, sir. Thank you to everyone. Quickly, you know, the new generation, I believe, they are not like our generation. They were raised with technology. I remember my son when he was 2 or 3 years. I'm professor of computer science. He locked my iPhone. I couldn't open it. 2, 3, really. So whenever we come to them, even when they talk in the same room, as you know, they don't talk. They use technology to, right? So we cannot, my point is, we cannot always to say, no, we have to guard them, we have to do this. Of course, we have to protect them, help them with laws and regulations, but we should not, they think we are ignorant in technology. Yeah, really. So this was, when I talk to my kids, they said, please stay away, you know, we know what we do. So always you have to be open up, don't think, okay, they are ignorant, they know nothing about this. They were raised with technology. They know almost everything better than us. So we need to protect them. We need to help them, educate them. But also, what can I say? We have to be flexible because they will use technology in all aspects of their lives, despite our will. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. You know, you mentioned something and it reminds me of one parent who was talking about how they were monitoring their children's communication. And this is a Kenyan parent. And so when they went to WhatsApp, they found that the child was, you know, using French to speak to other people because they're using ChatGPT and conversing in French. So literally the parent didn't know what to do. But in 30 seconds, in the tweetable fashion, I would like us to make very powerful closing remarks. If they forgot everything you said, this is your time. Thank you. So we'll start to my extreme right.
Well, thank you again. I think I will underscore what Duaa said, that the participation of young people is not a privilege. And I would add, it's not a symbolic act, it's a necessity for sustainable development and sustainable progress. Because whether we engage young people in structured forums or mentorship programs or directly in the policy making process, they help us in having inclusive policies and bills and secure the innovative process and ideas. Lastly, I want to thank Saudi Shura Council for hosting us and doing great work in organizing this event, and also IGF for putting the effort and giving us the opportunity to be with the youth in the same room, which for us, it's very energetic and very inspiring. So thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
You've already made my closing remarks, but thank you. Yes.
All right. So I have 4 points. The first one is that we need to institutionalize youth participation through consultative bodies, structured forums, and mentorship so that we can make informed decisions and impactful decisions alongside all of you. Point 2, that there are certain systemic barriers that, for example, around both digital and cultural, that if we can address, we can also participate. Point 3, something that was very important mentioned earlier was that you should treat young people as partners and not beneficiaries when it comes to policy making. And last, one of the points that I've taken from the floor is that we need to be where we want to see a change. So we need to be at the table, and we are working towards it as young people, but we need your support. Thank you.
I'm gonna keep this very short and sweet. I think we live in very strange times, and things are rapidly changing day in and day out. And the youth's effort is absolutely crucial to building the future that we would like to experience tomorrow. So I guess this is my message to all the youth here in the room. Stay hungry, stay passionate, do not get discouraged. Rome was not built in a day. And it is very important for us to continue this fight towards shaping our own digital future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Duaa. Honorable.
Merci, Monsieur le modérateur. Je vais clôturer par deux mots. Le premier mot, c'est la participation. Et le deuxième, c'est la responsabilité. Pourquoi la participation? Parce que tout simplement, amener à une société politisée n'est pas la solution. Tous les citoyens ne sont pas obligés d'être politiciens. Une société extrêmement politisée a des conséquences aussi sur le progrès social et économique. Non, on a besoin plutôt des citoyens éclairés qui participent sans complaisance. Alors, l'une des solutions, c'est le droit de pétition ou le veto populaire qui permet aux jeunes, à travers un certain nombre de signatures, de mettre le Parlement devant ses responsabilités. Parce que, madame, le Parlement ne doit pas avoir un droit de vie ou de mort sur le peuple. Le Parlement représente le peuple. Ses actions doivent être contrôlées par les citoyens. Alors, je propose, ceux qui n'ont pas dans leur législation et dans leur constitution le veto populaire, il faut donner la possibilité aux citoyens, surtout les jeunes, de rassembler un certain nombre de signatures et d'exprimer leurs préoccupations devant le Parlement et que le Parlement soit obligé de considérer les préoccupations et les propositions des jeunes. C'est ça la participation. Le deuxième élément, la responsabilité. Oui, l'Internet, la jeunesse est née avec l'Internet, elle a grandi avec l'Internet, mais on n'est pas né avec la responsabilité et on n'a pas grandi avec la responsabilité. La responsabilité s'acquiert par l'éducation. Donc, je plaide pour une éducation numérique responsable pour que la jeunesse puisse participer et éviter que les jeunes publient sur les réseaux sociaux les images 3D d'un site militaire protégé avec le terrorisme, avec tout ce qui constitue comme menace aujourd'hui à la sécurité nationale. Les actions des jeunes doivent être aussi limitées par la responsabilité. Je vous remercie.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Tobias, you are on my far left. That's why you're coming last, not because you're online. Eh?
No worries,
so
no worries.
Please
Thank
close
you.
it up.
Thank you very much. I think first of all, just see that young people or it's their future, it's our future. Include young people, and not as a game, but as people and voters and citizens that speak, think, and engage on their own future, and that will be around longer than everyone who is older. And I think that's important to see and to acknowledge. And the second thing is acknowledge the risks of digital transformation and digital tools, yes, but embrace the chances. Forge them, shape the developments, and enable people and young people especially to, well, enable their self-sovereign digital journey and put that in the middle of policy making, the young people and the people in general, the humans in the middle of our digital policies. I think then we can enable them, as I said, to make their journey and to engage and to participate.
Thank you so much, Honorable Tobias. We are 3 minutes into time. And so as we close, I would like to let the parliamentarians in the room know that a draft, an email has been sent to you that has the draft outcome. Please look at it and give in your comments for the parliamentary track on your emails. We'll be happy to receive that feedback, as early as possible to allow the Secretariat and colleagues close on that. Lastly, I just want to thank again, the Saudi government and all the youth organizers, and Duaa was our able coordinator and point person for all the young people from the host government, as well as the secretariat. Thank you so much for ensuring that young people have an opportunity to interact with the parliamentarians and of course the parliamentarians, whether it was on your own accord or through the parliament. We hope that we can continue to engage with you. We are inviting you tomorrow at room number 6, where the Kenyan delegation will be having a roundtable with members of parliament. So you're welcome to come. As we close, I was your moderator, Keith Andere. Until next time, thank you so much.